Sonja Savanovic.
There you go. Look at you.
Did I get
Look
that
at
right?
You got that right. You got that right.
I just had to ask her what her last name is, and she said Savanovic, like son of a bitch.
Exactly.
Welcome.
That's the only way I can explain to people, because it was always like when they introduced me to the shows, there was like, fuck. That's the first one when they see, my name, and they're like, Savanovic, like, and then it's always like Vitch, like a witch.
Yeah.
There's always like, you know what, just call me Bob, whatever you need to call me, let's get through it, But yeah, it's always Sonja, because I spell my name Sonja.
Yeah.
So they say Sonja instead of Sonia. It's it's a lot. But you know what? I'm not changing it. So
There's a
you
lot.
better get on board, bitches. Learn it. Put some respect on her name.
Well, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting for you. I'm happy for you. Look at you.
Thank you.
You have your lights and the orange table.
Yeah.
And look at you drinking water for Aussie. That's insane. Listen, I have family that lives in Australia. Honestly, like I love them. They're amazing. But I feel like everybody is in Australia is just wrestling with kangaroos and alcoholism. That's like their pastime. You know, like I don't know a sober person from Australia. Never met them.
It's hard. We start young. We start very young there.
Yeah. Do you have like a legal age for drinking?
18, but that's
Nobody respect that,
No.
right? Like you tried your alcohol when? The first time you tried the beer?
the first time I was drunk was like 14.
Exactly.
And then we were pretty much binge drinking every weekend from then, 14, 15.
Yeah, you see, like that's the thing. Like in Eastern Europe, now it depends where. Like don't drink with Czech people. They will outdrink you, or they say like Russians. I don't know. There's this joke that says last night I drank with Russians and I thought that I was gonna die, and then today I drank with Serbians and I almost died. They always think that Eastern Europeans drink a lot, that we are like depressed or whatever. Like maybe some are, but it's true. Like we do try alcohol like really early. I remember, I think I tried maybe like wine or something. Like I've never been a fan of beer, but I tried the wine when I was like in high school, maybe, maybe even like earlier. I don't know. I remember middle school, maybe. And that's the thing. I actually think that's the trick. Like give kids alcohol and cigarettes because they're always going to be like, yuck, I don't want to do it, But if you tell them like, hey, don't drink, that's all they want.
That's what happened with me. Like I wasn't allowed to, so I would like sneak out. I got used to sneak out of home a lot.
Yeah.
My older sisters taught me that, or I would just be like, I'm staying at a friend's house tonight, and then we would go from there. And because we were hiding it, we would just get so much more drunk.
Yeah,
because we would just be like, no one knows. Let's fucking party.
Where did you grow up in Australia?
Brisbane.
Okay. Is there so much to do there?
Yeah, there's things to do.
Like when you were like a teenager, like did you have like your cool spots, like, or did you really have to go to like other places like Melbourne or Sydney to like really like outreach for fun?
No, it's good. It's a pretty big city. There's stuff. We got the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
Really close. But you're in that awkward age when you're in high school because you don't have a car yet, and you really need a car in Brisbane.
Exactly.
So you're stuck in the city, and there's you're doing like school sports on a Saturday or whatever, and then it's like, what do we do tonight?
At what age you start driving?
17.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We can't drive before 18. Like for us.
Really?
18. Yeah. For drinking and driving.
Really?
What a nice combo. It's like what about we tried the same thing at the same day? Like that's a good combo.
So you're from Serbia? Mm-hmm. Okay. So when did you? So did you grow up? You grew up all through Serbia, like in Serbia.
Yes. So I grew up when we were still Yugoslavia, and then.
So you would have. That was the Soviet Union then.
No. We were not. Yugoslavia is South Europe. We are technically not Eastern Europeans. Like we are kind of like the way Kendall and Kylie Jenner are Kardashians. You know what I mean? Like technically we are not, but by association we are, you know, like technically they are Jenners, but by associations they are Kardashians. So like we are South Europeans, like we are Balkan people, you know, Serbians, Croatians, Bosnians, you know, we were Yugoslavia. It's like 6 states. And then we had a little bit of conflict, you know, and yeah, all through the 90s, those were our war years. And
Well, I remember, so I was in
yeah.
Perth when I was my earlier years, and we used to get Yugoslavian refugees come to
Yes.
Perth, and they would stay in the military barracks, and we would like kick soccer balls to them. So does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, my mom's side of the family moved to Australia in the 70s.
Gotcha.
So a lot of them actually lived in Perth. You know, so they're like a fucking dynasty. Like if you go in an airplane to Perth and you ask somebody about the Woolen family, they know who they are.
Okay.
Because there's so many of them.
Wow.
Because they all came like in 70s and just like they had like 6 children each, you know. So yeah, but yeah, and then throughout the 90s, a lot of people moved to Australia and Germany, Switzerland. You know, people like went to different places. It was a difficult time because
What was the sorry to interrupt, but what
Yeah.
was the war because? What?
well, it's mostly like so the war started like in early 90s, right? So like 93, 94. That's when the first Slovenia separated, right?
Gotcha.
Like Melania, Slovenia. Okay,
Okay.
so they separated without war. Right, they did not like that the Serbia had all the central power, right, in Belgrade and everything. So they wanted to separate, and then once one state separates, it kind of creates the domino effect, right? So like in early to mid 90s, we had war in Croatia and Bosnia, and the problem is it's mostly like religious war. You know, because you have Serbians who are Orthodox Christians, you have Croatians who are Catholics, and then you have Bosnia that has Croatians, Serbians, and Bosniaks, which are basically Muslims. Now, they are Muslims because they had to accept Islam. They're basically Serbians, you know, but like due to Ottoman Empire, they had to accept Islam. Otherwise, they would all be killed. Their land would be taken, you know. Ottomans, they're chill like that. So, yeah, so because of the history like that, you know, the whole Bosnia was also divided like in 3 different places, like Sarajevo, you know, it was divided like in 3 parts. Like imagine like Manhattan like be divided in 3 different parts, and you have like white people here and black people here and Latinos there.
Wow.
And then like imagine you have to go to an open mic on the other side, you know, and you have to cross Latino territory. Good luck, white Cameron, you know. So it was like that. It was very
Wow.
intense, like, you know. There was a lot of
Was it like a military? Was it a lot of like local rebel forces? Like
it was mix of everything, because, you know, when you have those religious tensions, you know, everybody is kind of like struggling for power. It was more like this city is going to belong to us, this one's going to belong to us. So they basically you know, took bits and pieces, you know, so this part's going to belong to Serbians, this is going to belong to Croatians. Everybody became so territorial, you know, and you know, it was unfortunately like that. And then you have a lot of mixed marriages. For us, mixed marriage is not black and white. For us, mixed marriage is like between a Catholic and Orthodox, you know, or like Muslim and Christian. So those families, in order to save their sanity and save their families, they moved to different countries, including Australia has a big diaspora, you know. I feel like if you go to Australia, like you're always gonna run into one of us.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like it's and so yeah, and then we had, you know, Croatia and Bosnia separated, and then at the end it was just Serbia and Montenegro, and then Montenegro at the end decided to separate, so it's just Serbia, and then
so before that, was it just a union of countries?
yes, it was kind of like United States. Instead of 50 states, you had 6.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you think in the end of the day, it's been for the best? Like, although, you know, despite the war, if you were to get rid of that,
No,
splitting up?
I don't think so, because you know what? When we like you have a lot of people from that region. all around the world. And if I go to, for example, Queens, right? Like I'm gonna run into someone who is from Croatia and their wife is Serbian. There was a restaurant that recently closed, but called Selo. It was like a very beautiful Balkan restaurant in Queens, and his wife is Serbian. But he's Croatian. So they had this beautiful cuisine. And everybody that went there is just people from that region. Like nobody cares. Like once we leave that region and go somewhere else, we really don't care. Usually people who obsess over that are like really young people who were maybe like raised by like really like nationalist parents. But those kids were not even born in that region. Like that war was like 25 years ago, 30, So like people kind of just wanted to move on with their lives. So if you go to Australia, you will see like Macedonians and people from Montenegro and Serbia and Croatia all doing the same shit. And you will not be able to tell us apart. You can't. Like we are essentially the same people, which I think it sucks. I don't like any of that. I feel like, who likes war? It's a drag,
it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but when we were Yugoslavia, it was to the certain part. It was kind of good. Like before our president Tito died. He died, I think, like in 1980, and before that, he was all about what we call nowadays diversity. Like it was all about inclusion. So you had mandatory military, for example, right? So if you are a guy who was born and raised in the North, in order for you to serve in the military, you would probably go somewhere in the South or East or West. They will send you there on purpose so that you can learn the region, so you can connect with people from that region, maybe learn the dialect, People were like students were so happy to like do all these like volunteer work, for example, during the summer. Like it's during the summer, they sent you somewhere like in the Croatian coast or whatever, and then you just spend the whole summer meeting like new young people, and you build houses in school, and it's like from what my parents told, that was the vibe. And then once he died, because he ruled for like 30 years. So once he died, everybody was fighting for power. And that's when shit happens, like everybody wanted the peace, everybody wants to be in the control, like suddenly every little difference is bothering you. And, somebody has to be a bad guy. And it's just like politics is shitty in general. So I don't really like it. I make fun of it, but like I don't really like to be involved like on a serious level.
Yeah, of course. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, it really is. That's why when there are like any kind of like racial tension in this country, or somebody say like, oh, we want California to separate, like you don't want that, because it's going to create a domino effect. And so suddenly the whole country is going to become weaker and weaker. Like you might think like, oh, we don't want these liberals, or we don't want these like rednecks. You kind of need each other. You kind of need that that like little symphony of all these different backgrounds and characters, because you can't sustain on just like one ideology.
Hold that for a second. Well, there's strength in numbers as well. Like people,
yeah, of course.
And I would imagine if those countries hadn't all divided, they'd be like a pretty powerhouse country right now.
We were after Germany. After Germany, we were like one of the most developing countries, and we were making a shit ton of money because the location of Yugoslavia was kind of it's like southeast. So whoever wants to do the trade, everything has to go through us. So if you have to, like, North wants to do with like Greece, and then with like Africa, it has to go through us. If East, Bulgaria, Romania, whatever, wants to work on with the Western Europe, they have to go through us. So I feel like whenever you have somebody who is like very powerful, or is going to be, you have to find a way to break them apart. You have to find their weak spot, right? Like for us, it was religion. For United States, it's race. There's always going to be racial tension in this country. That's what politicians are always going to use that.
I don't feel like it gets used as like a missile. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's a weapon that
Yeah.
people use to divide us essentially. But I
Yeah.
don't feel like most people are racist at all.
No, but it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like it has to be. It can also be on a micro level. For example, if you have a frenemy, right? Like if you want to take them down, like what are you gonna do? You're gonna see what their weak spot is, and you're gonna attack that. So they are just doing that on a global level. Like if you really go in through any government and you see that's what they do with like whenever they're trying to like overturn the government or like push their agenda, that's all they're gonna do. They're just gonna stick to even like the smallest detail and they're just gonna milk the shit out of it until it becomes way bigger, and then you'll have to be like, okay, hold on a second, why are we fighting this? You know, like it comes to that point. And that's what it was for us, because when we come to New York or Australia or like Germany, yeah, there are gonna still be little pockets where there are gonna be tensions, you know, because people come to those countries with different traumas. Maybe you lost family member in a war, you know, you are dragging those little traumas with you. But on a global scale, we really don't care. You know, everybody's just trying to survive and wants to be happy and healthy. And that is universal to everybody. You know, that's why I love New York, because when you come here, like you meet all these people from all these different backgrounds. And at the end of the day, you just realize, oh, we just all want the same shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. You know, it's really not, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
completely agree. So, what you grew up? So in Serbia, did you do university there?
Yes, I went to business college and I majored in computer science.
Okay. And then, at what point was it when you actually moved to the United States?
You know, it was I moved in 2004. It was just like I was presented with the opportunity to come for like a couple of years, kind of like an exchange student situation, because a year prior to me going to United States, my sister was one of the 12 kids from my country that was kind of like a creme de la creme students from Serbia that were taken to Washington, D.C. and Ohio. And kind of like, this was like after the bombing of Serbia, right, in 1999, right? And so America and Serbia were trying to like have better relationships. And so that was like the first time their students went on some kind of exchange program. So my sister went through this agency. She had a great experience. Everybody loved everybody. You know, the teachers and students that went to Washington, they were in the United States for like a month. And then after they came back, they were like, hey, you know, we have some student exchange things. If you want to have, if you want to like work with children, we have tutoring, we have like nannies, we have all these different programs. And so I was like, yeah, you know, let me just go and check it out for like a year or two. And after that, I went to Atlanta. That was my home.
Oh, wow.
That was my home for like 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in Atlanta for like 6 years. And then after that, I was kind of like fed up with that, how can I say, capitalistic lifestyle, you know, like, oh, you know, wake up, go to work, go home,
What were you doing
wash your ass and go to bed, you know. Yeah, so
What were you doing for work
I
there?
was tutoring, and I was later also being a nanny. I was working in the country club.
Oh, wow.
And then I also started like freelancing as a graphic designer.
Okay.
It was just like, you know,
Yeah.
like you come to another country and you're just hustling.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after that, I just turned into full-time graphic designer from there. But yeah, it was a good experience. It was just a lot, you know, like building the whole life. And then I moved to like Europe for several months, and then I realized, I don't think I belong here anymore.
Wow.
You know, I wanted to so bad to belong to my life in Serbia, but I don't know. everything kind of shifted. You know what I mean? Like people in America maybe saw me as an immigrant, but people back home saw me as American. So you are in this weird place where you're like,
That's weird. Yeah.
you know, not in the clouds, but not exactly on the ground. You know, you're somewhere in the middle. I remember when I first came, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go and look for a job. Nobody wanted to hire me because, like, where were you for the last 6 years? You know? And then you tell them where you were, like, oh my gosh, how was it? And then you spend the whole interview just sharing stories from United States. I'm like, why did I come here? And that was happening for several months. And then, and my brother-in-law, he has a brother who at the time was living in New York, and he was like, why don't you come just like visit, just hang out? And that's when I came to New York, and 2 days later, this woman hired me to be her assistant and help her out. And it was like, that's how I ended up staying.
And what year was that?
This was 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, you've had a good innings.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in this country for like 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're a citizen and everything?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It took me like 10 years to go through the whole process. Are you trying?
I've got my
Applied?
temporary green card now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I got all the work, the thing that gives me the right to work. And,
Yeah. So you have like for 2 years or for 5 years?
That's 5 years.
For 5 years, yeah.
The green card should be, hopefully, it's just time now. It's just got to wait for them.
Yeah.
It's all been approved. It's just now sitting in the cloud.
I know.
Doing the thing.
I know. I became a citizen in 2015.
Okay.
You know, it was like, oh, finally after 10 years. You know, it's like, so that's what I'm always joking. Like, I don't really care who is spying on my phone. Like, literally, U.S. government has everything on me. You know what I mean? Like my blood, my DNA, my nudes, everything. You know, they're just storing on the cloud. They didn't ask for nudes, but beggars can be choosers, Cameron. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's I love it here. How do you find New York?
I love it.
Right? People have love-hate relationship.
I love it.
You know, people are either like, oh my God, this city is awful. I'm like, you know, you can always move. Like, United States is huge.
Yeah, I think if you've come here from somewhere else and you've moved into the city and I don't, like most people that are pretty new to the city love it or that have had some sort of outside perspective. Because it is a fantastic city. You can do what
It just depends what you want to do.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you have some Delulu dream like we have, right? Like if you are like trying to pursue arts or you just want to be around creative people, doesn't matter if it's comedy, music, you know, anything you want to do, this is the place where you want to explore that because you want to be around a lot of people where you can create these little communities, right?
Iron. What is it? Iron sharpens iron.
Really?
Iron sharpens iron. That's the saying. You surround yourself by the same people.
Exactly. But if you just want to have a 9-to-5, you know, job and you're happy with it, it doesn't matter. You want to have a family life or you should go somewhere where that suits your lifestyle much better, you know, because New York is really for people who love the hustle.
Yeah.
You know, and I know people are like, oh my God, everybody wants to hustle. Yeah, but there are some people who enjoy that, you know, they enjoy that kind of drive. They enjoy pursuing their dream. It's not like the finish line so much, but like the experiences and people. And so that one day when you're like 80 years old, you can say like, you know, fuck it. At least I tried it. You know what I mean? Like there's this show in my country back home, like where they have all these old people try for like a music show. It's called like It's Never Too Late, you know. For some of these people, it's guys, you know, like it's one foot in the grave, you know. But they're like 80 years old. They just want to like have like a singing competition, you know, and they just like apply, and they're cute. And you listen, you should do it, you know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, try it.
Yeah.
What else you gonna do? Like, it doesn't work out, fine. You know, you can always go back to your hometown and or a different place. You know, explore, see what works for you. Like, it's not a big deal. It's not that serious. You know?
There's absolutely nothing to lose as well.
Nothing. I mean, when you think about it, sometimes I watch these videos on TikTok. I don't know if you're on TikTok, but I love it because it's just like the spectrum of mental illnesses. But the funny thing is, like, a lot of these Delulu people are like really making it. And because their whole vibe is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's like, Delulu is my vibe. And they just convince themselves that they're fabulous and that they're and I'm like, oh my God, like I've seen people with real talent never talk like that about themselves. You know what I mean? It's always somebody who's like, I don't even know what I want, but I have like 100K followers, you know? There's this guy that I follow. He's a gay dude, and his whole vibe is like, if I were a girl, this is what would be my name. It would be like Anne. And then he creates all these stories, and creates like little fan fiction, like, whatever, you know. But like people are just trying different things, and they're just having fun, you know.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, what else you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, like what is? I mean, sure, you know. Have your job, pay your bills, take care of yourself. I'm not saying quit, you know, your security to do comedy. You know, you have to do it. You have to have that balance until you fully paying your bills with comedy. Don't quit that day job. You know, you're just gonna be stressed out so much.
Yeah. But it's, if you think about it, what's happening artistically in all, you know, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Think about when we're children.
Yeah.
And we just play. We become these imaginary people, and there's no limitation at all. I mean, that's what people are doing now, essentially. They've got a platform to do it. I mean, some people are fucking crazy and like, whatever, don't follow them, you know? But if you're interested in people and watching people just play, which is all really life is, then like go for it. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I like to follow a lot of different people that I agree with and people that I don't agree with, because I feel like, okay, maybe I don't agree, but maybe I'm missing something. You know, I feel like, you know, they say like, you know, smart people can learn from fools, you know, but a fool will never even learn from a smart person, you know. So I look at everything that I consume that way, you know, and especially in the comedy community, you have so many different voices. Right? And everybody has their own perspective, and everybody's just trying to like come with their own vision of what comedy should be, you know? And especially it's entertaining when you watch all these like edgelords, you know, just people who want to be edgy. I'm like, okay, but first you need to have a personality, babe. You know, like you need to have some knowledge, you know, like you need to have some leverage to back up your craziness, you know?
Yeah.
So, because even with people that you might not fundamentally agree, you can at least say that they know how to debate people, you know? Like, even if they believe in something that you don't necessarily believe in, they, you know, they do their research. They, you know, they read, they know how to have a conversation about topics that, you know, not a lot of people understand. So, you know, you can always learn something, a different perspective. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing in comedy. You know, a lot of people want to be a comedian, but they don't want to enjoy the process. They just want to make it. And that's when they get lost, they get discouraged, that they get depressed, you know, because they just don't enjoy it. You know, I don't know some of the reasons why they decided to do it. I feel like some people just want to be called a comedian because it's like a cool thing to be, right? Like if you go to a party or if you meet a girl, right? It's like, oh, you know, I do comedy. And suddenly she thinks, oh, you're an interesting person, you know? I mean, you've been to mics and shit, like, you know, people just want to say shit, not necessarily like write jokes. And they have problem with people who are really putting in the work. That's another thing, right? Like they bitch about somebody else's success and how things should be run. But like, okay, but what are you doing? You know, like have you tried to run something? Have you tried to produce a show or run a mic or have a podcast or have other people depend on you and in your professionalism? But yeah, but it's a comedy community. Everybody likes to veer drama.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah, I really
you
do.
You will, how long you been doing comedy?
This time round, since June, since I got here.
Since so have you tried doing comedy in Australia?
I did a bit of a comedy in Australia.
And how was the scene there for you?
For me, it was okay. It was I was really only doing like one open mic a month.
But what made you start in the first place?
I came home from a party, drunk and high on cocaine.
Oh, okay.
And I and I saw just something pop up on my feed to do a course. And I did, and so I was like, that's a good idea. And then I woke up the next day and the email was in my inbox and I clicked it. I was like, fuck.
I guess we are doing this. Can't be a loser and say no, thank you. No, goes to spam. Nope. This is going to be my driving force for the rest of my life.
How did you get into it? And when? I'm interested.
So when I first came to United States, this was like in 2004, I dated this guy and he was like, you're actually really funny. I should take you to Punchline in Atlanta because like you can be a stand-up comic. But I'm like, what do you mean? Like I wasn't like really aware of the whole concept of stand-up comedy because like all these famous names like Eddie Murphy or like Joan Rivers, like all these people, I've only known them in Serbia through movies because they already, transition into actors, like comedic actors. So I was never really aware of stand-up comedy as a form back in Serbia. We didn't have that. It's a very new thing there now. Maybe it's been like 10 years that people are doing there. So he was like, you should be fun. I was like, I don't even know that. My English was not even that well. Like I was still like trying to figure things out. And I didn't even think about that until I moved to New York in 2011. Haven't even thought about that then. But then in 2014, I was like, you know what I was actually doing? I started journaling things. And it was not a typical journal. I was mostly like writing funny shit that happened to me or like funny thoughts, not realizing that that's writing comedy.
There you go.
Because I always hated writing journals when I was a kid. I don't know about you, but I hate it because like I would have a bad day, right?
Yeah.
Like I would just write my feelings for like 200 to 500 pages. And then the next day I feel much better because I had carbs. And I would just like wake up and I was like, oh my gosh, this is disgusting. Nobody should ever read this. And then I would just rip that and burn it. I was like, no. No, absolutely not. Nobody, no. And so I was like, my mom to read this? Absolutely not. Like, I don't want to be blackmailed at 15, So that's what I'm saying. Like, I've never been that like girl that was just like, oh my gosh, processing emotions. No, it would be like once a year. I had a bad week, and then I would just form my feelings. And then by the end of the week, I would feel better, rip that whole shit apart. And that was it. So I never got into that, that habit of writing shit down. Also, I'm Eastern Europeans. You're not supposed to have feelings. Like, what is this? Are we gay? What's happening? Yeah. So once so like from Atlanta to like New York, I would like have this like notebook and I would just like write like funny things that happened to me, or like that happened to my friends and like something. It's kind of like my personal gossip with myself. About the events. And then when I came to New York, I was like, hey, all throughout that time, I always like be the class clown, around the friends. I was like always that like a big funny girl, So like it always followed me, but I never really committed to actually trying to do stand up. And then in like 2014, I saw. I don't know how. I think that I was Googling maybe like comedy classes because I was like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to start? And I was like, I don't want to just like show up somewhere. I want to know like how to prepare for that. So I found this Manhattan comedy school, and I took like a workshop. It was maybe like 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. And my teacher Karen Bergreen was there, just teaching us the basics. And I brought my notebook with all that shit. And when I first start
Wow.
like forming those different experiences, and realizing, okay, I guess this is a hack, because like when in the beginning you don't know what's hack, what's not, then you kind of like learning things, and you learn how to use brevity, how to slow down. Then you learn how to ignore that and break rules and do your own thing. And then you realize, oh, they were right, So it was that. And then, but the big change happened a year later when I took another workshop class with Gotham Comedy Club. And my teacher, Jim Mendrinos, he was really excellent teacher, and his assistant, Lori Summer, there was such a great duo. And in the class, they really guide us not just through comedy writing, but also through like the business of comedy. And that helped me a lot because what happened was a year after that, he wanted to have like a graduation show. He wanted to have all his former students have a show, and nobody wanted to like organize it. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. What I'm supposed to do, like bring people together, fine. So I did that, and we had a successful show to the point that Gotham approached me. It's like, hey, do you want to produce here?
Wow.
And so I started producing with another comic, Eddie Gomez. So he and I started Comedians on the Loose, and we were producing monthly show at Gotham. That ended up being a really successful show. We used our open mic to audition comics.
There you go.
So half of the people were people from the open mic. But we were actually very much against bringer shows at the time, because when we started, bringer shows were like really running strong. And it was pretty much almost like all that it was out there, And we were like, okay, well, this is, this we can't sustain this, like, this is a lot,
And it's such a rort.
It is, and it's not.
It's just such a bullshit carrot that these clubs dangle in front of comics, and people don't realize that most of the time, 99% of the time, you're not getting the opportunity. Yeah, I bet you all these. Oh yeah, the videotape's going to go to the booker. Fucking bullshit.
No, so
Bullshit.
that's how it was. But I will go back to bringer shows. There are few that do have a purpose, but for the most
100%.
part, yes. But for the most part, they're very unethical. But yes, that was the whole model, and we were like, okay, you know what? This is bullshit. We want to produce shows that's going to be booked based on merit. And so we were like, okay, how are we going to do? Let's just create the whole platform. So we created a website. I was like, how about we also help by writing a blog? So Eddie was the first one who started writing, and then I continued. And then we were like, okay, let's have a show, but let's organize it in the way that half of the people is going to be people that we see at the open mic who are putting in the work. They're progressing, they're like really good. And then we will have a headliner who is going to be a professional comedian. Think Yamanika Saunders, or that level, right? Or Jesse Curson. So that will gonna be a headliner, and then the feature is gonna be half of the people we have at the open mic, and the other half are gonna be like semi-pros, And that's how we ended up having like a very good strategy. I was also recording everything. We had red mics. That's why you see in the logo the red mic, because that was our brand at the
Love
time. We had red mics, and then people were performing and getting like a good tape. Because like in the beginning we were only able to pay the headliner, but like for comics we were like, hey, we can't pay you, but we're gonna give you a good tape. Which at the time people were charging like $40 for a tape. So we were like, okay, at least they get a spot. They can do like 7 to 10 minutes. They can have a good tape, and it was a quality tape. So a lot of people actually use it for auditions, for festivals, and other spots. And it just became something that people would put on their like comedy bucket list, to perform at our show, because we were so transparent with the way we were running it.
Wow.
We also had a comedy competition that we were running. It was called Red Mic Battle. And this was in 2018. This was like when the Me Too movement was kind of like boiling, and there was so much tension between comedians. Male comics were like, what I'm gonna say, I don't want to get in trouble, and then female comics were constantly afraid. So we were like, okay, this sucks for everybody. And so we were like, okay, let's have a competition where they are forced to work together.
Yeah, good on you. Sonja.
So, yeah, that's exactly. That's exactly. I was like, you know what? They hate this. Well, let's make them. So what we did, we created Red Mic Battle, where they have to create teams. So it has to be one male comic who's going to work with the female comics. Two of them have to be the team. They can come up with the names. So the names were ridiculous of the teams. But they would compete with other teams, right? Like we had like maybe 10 teams at the end. And they would compete in 3 categories. So they would individually do stand-up. Then they would do crowd work together. And then they would do roasting. So we had several shows throughout like 4 or 5 different venues. And it was a good time, but we only had that one competition. After that, it was so challenging to produce something like that. But yeah, Comedians on the Loose have always been about just providing that platform where comics of different levels, can just find something useful there. Doesn't matter if it's stage time. Then we start producing at Punchline Philly. We even had like a little tour in Texas that we took comics with. We did a fundraiser there.
Wow.
And then I would say 2019, we started doing, we reached out to Punchline Philly, and we brought Comedians on the Loose to Punchline Philly. And we end up, we had maybe like 3 shows, and then COVID happened. And things changed from there. Like comedy was practically dead for like a year or so. Maybe some people were producing at rooftops, but that was it. And then Eddie, he decided to leave the production. He's like, I want to focus on something else, like my life and my individual comedy. Producing takes a lot of time, and that's how I ended up running Comedians on the Loose by myself since 2020. Yeah.
And has that been challenging doing it on your own, or have you enjoyed it?
You know what? I enjoy. It's been both. It's getting easier just because I kind of develop I don't give a crap anymore attitude. It's not that I don't care. I do, but there's just so much that goes into producing something like that you can be really triggered by everything. So it's more like of protecting my own sanity, not necessarily like not giving crap about others. Whenever there's like a serious matter, I handle that, but now I handle everything off stage because in the comedy world, people love drama. And if something good happens, yeah, people spread the word. But if something bad happens, everybody knows that like in a matter of seconds. People love to take pictures. People love to take videos. We had a lot of issues prior to COVID. People would end up in fights. I had to physically remove people from the venue.
Wow.
We had kids, like a gang of kids that will come to our open mic every week, and they would try to start fights with comics. They ripped our cables. My equipment got destroyed like 5 different times. So that's why I'm always hyper vigilant when I'm running it, and there are a lot of moving parts. I used to have several different venues, and in the end, We started with Black Cat. We were the first one there. It was just a coffee shop. We were the first one who brought the comedy there, and then other producers came. Some were good, but like there were a lot of them who just created problems, you know. So, so yeah, but it has its challenges. But I enjoy what I do. So for me, it's not, you know, it's not difficult. People ask me all the time, how do you sit there for hours? I'm like, I enjoy what I do, you know?
I actually think you're an angel.
Okay.
No, I really mean that. I have my suspicions.
Okay.
I really do. I think what you do is just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You've really served the comedy community.
Well,
Really.
that's what I'm saying. I
Truly mean
I
that.
feel like, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you know, you're just like running or like you're charging. It's like, no, there are a lot of moving parts there, you know. The guy who is running Black Cat, he's the third owner since I've been there. Like, whenever you're running something, you have to establish a relationship with that venue. You have to make sure that they are benefiting from you. You have to make sure that baristas are safe. You know, like those girls also, you know, they have to deal with a lot of crazy people there. I don't know, like that area, you know, like
Yeah,
at a certain
it's a
point of
rough area.
time, like it's just a walking dead. You know, it's
Yeah.
like you never know who's gonna walk in there. I had to remove physically homeless people, like people who wanted to fight me. Like I literally had to be in that position. I had an incident in 2018 that resulted in this crazy dude going on Legion of Skanks, one of the biggest podcasts for those who don't know, and telling everybody that somebody should slit my throat.
Wow.
And I ended up getting death threats for like a couple
Wow.
of years. You know, I had to remove all my content online. Everything was reported, everything was flagged, everything was, you know. And then at the end, they realized, oh, they are really dealing with a crazy person. Because at first they had him on podcast because they wanted to, you know, make fun of him, maybe like, oh, make fun of the whole situation. But then they realized, oh, this is a
He's
mentally
mentally
ill
ill.
person,
Yeah.
you know. But that's unfortunate when it comes to running an open mic. It's not a show, right? So like you're not like if I'm not when I was running a show at Gotham in Punchline, like yeah, those are the people that we selected. You know, we know who we are dealing with. We're gonna, you know, we eventually ended up paying everybody and taking care of them. You know, when we took them to Punchline from New York, because we would have comics from New York and then have one comic from Philly as a guest, right? We would pay everybody, you know, pay for their food, transportation, everything. So, like, we always ran it like in the most transparent way. And but when you run an open mic, it's a different setting. There are a lot of moving parts, and you know, sometimes there are conflicts between comics, and you know. People want you to be on their side, but Sonja, I thought we were friends. I'm like, okay, well, what happened? You know, because like you're trying to be fair to everyone. Like right now, I'm aware of a girl that has a restraining order against a male comic, and that same comic, I just found out that he's harassing another girl.
Oh my God.
You know, so there's a lot of that,
Yeah.
and the thing is like. If something happens, which sometimes usually happens, we had a situation where somebody was fighting with somebody else in the audience, and it was a white comic, but the audience was black. So it ended up being a racial thing. And so I wasn't even aware what was happening. Somebody said something to someone, but they want my information. They want me to be responsible for it, although I haven't seen damn thing, you know? But people always want to catch you red-handed. You know, there's so much drama. There's so much that goes into that people don't really understand, you know, because, I mean, I'm trying to make things light and fun, you know, but yeah, people are crazy off stage. Absolutely insane.
They are. Especially your mic has. It's very eclectic.
Oh my God, yes.
It is. I think it is.
Exactly.
Your mic is the most unique open mic probably in the world.
Oh my
I
God.
truly believe just to have your open mic in New York City and the people that come there, it's going to go down in the history books as one of the best open mics in the world.
Oh my God, that's
I truly believe that.
yeah.
You're-
Unless somebody burned that place to the ground, which almost happened because I had somebody wanted to light themselves on fire on stage. This was several years ago.
You got to tell me this story.
Okay, so there was a guy. He finished his set
I don't know why I'm laughing. That's all.
because it's hilarious, but also. But also, are you okay? You know, like we're in trouble. Like, make sure you know your exits at all times. You know, like this is crazy. This is why when you see me, like I'm always like, you know, like on high alert. I'm like, I'm gonna need a gun and a pit bull in this bitch. You know, because it is like that. I not to play like a woman's card, but it truly is like that. When they see a woman on stage, they're like, oh, I can just do whatever, you know. She's not gonna defend herself because you know she's a girl. What she's gonna do, you know? And then I showed up with my attitude, like, don't be fooled by these pink nails, you know, red nails, you know, like, bitch, you're gonna learn today. You know, like I go ghetto immediately, like I go Brooklyn and Balkan on them at the same time. So it's, you know. And then you have to go back to like, let's have fun, you know. But yeah, there was this guy on stage. He was doing his set, and then he pulled out Axe body spray. And I was like, oh, let's go, you know. Because I am like desensitized at this point. Like, okay, what are you gonna do with the Axe spray? And then he pulled out the lighter, and he was like, like, oh no. And then he you know, cracked it, and I was like, oh no, like, don't do it, you know. And so he was standing there, and I'm like, can you just like leave, you know? And there was a guy also.
Can you light yourself on fire outside?
Exactly, like a liability, bitch. You know, I'm friends with a lot of Jews. Every day they're like, Sonja, don't do that, liability. You know. So yeah, so he tried to light himself on fire. Luckily, because everybody started to panic, and they all look at you, you know, because like you're now like the queen bee, like you have to have the control of the room. And I'm like, bitch, I'm not trained for this. I'm not, you know, like I'm just like you. And then there was this guy who took the whole bottle of wine, and he poured it all over himself. There was like wine all over him, all over the stage. And we want to clean up on stage, you know, clean up on aisle 5. There was a girl that took the whole microphone and put it inside her mouth. Like she just deep-throated the whole thing.
Jesus Christ, what a girl.
Yeah. Listen.
Can I have her number?
What a way to advertise yourself. Yeah. No, like.
Melissa, do you do open mics?
Yeah.
That's my wife.
She's gonna be there tomorrow. She's like, listen, I need to know what's going on here. What kind of dungeon is this bitch running? I know sometimes mics are fun, but sometimes I tell them like it's like a talent show at the psych ward.
Yeah.
Everybody skipped their meds, and I'm like a nurse, and it's my shift to keep everybody in check, and they don't want to be caught. So, so they're just on. That's what I get when I call the brand of comedians on the loose, because everybody is on loose. Everybody's losing their shit, you know.
What's been like some of the most joyful moments that you've experienced?
You know, for me, the most joyful thing actually is when I finally see comics like make it.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen some comedians, you know, that I met like 10 years ago, and now they're having their specials on Netflix, or I see them in a movie or a Comedy Central, you know. Sometimes they reach out and they want to like drop in and like do a little spot or whatever, like, you know. For me, honestly, it's just seeing somebody actually getting to that level.
Yeah.
You know, I find that to be like very inspirational. You know, it's possible for everybody. And there are also different ways to make it in this industry. That's the thing, like people are always like focusing on, like, oh, I'm going to be like a household name. There are a lot of different ways you can be successful. A lot of these comedians are also very good writers. Like maybe some of them are not such good performers, but they're excellent writers. Maybe they don't like the whole drama. They may be like introverts and they don't know really how to deal with the whole, like, I want to say exposure or like networking or just like constantly being forced to, be the clown. But they're excellent writers. And unfortunately, sometimes some of them actually quit comedy in 2020. There was this wonderful comedian, Jula Branda. Shout out to you. Please, girl, come back to comedy. She's just fantastic. I love Jula. She's a great writer. And she was one of those comedians where she goes on stage, even dudes are excited to see her.
Wow.
Because she's just so fun and funny and like Italian girl from Jersey,
Why
like
did
with
she
her
quit?
vibe. I guess she wanted to like focus more on like stability in her life, I guess having day job and everything that comes with that, responsibilities. And maybe it was partially also the whole like offstage drama and the politics of comedy. That also happens. But then also comedy game changed a lot right now. Right now you have like all these like TikTok famous, right? Comics who are, you know, maybe doing comedy for a couple of years, but suddenly they are in their heads and they're obsessing. And then let's say they're maybe like 25 years old and somebody else who is also in their 20s think, oh my gosh, I'm so behind because this person is, getting opportunity. I'm like, you have time. It doesn't matter. This is a message for all it doesn't matter how old you are. You have time because
There's an audience for everyone.
not just that, but it takes time to get good. You know what I mean? I feel like everybody wants to rush the whole process of just like, oh, I just want to make it. And I'm like, and then what? Let's say somebody wants to take you on a road today. Do you have that much material? And let's say you do. Let's say you released a half hour special. It doesn't matter. You think maybe that you have a whole hour. Technically, you probably have 20 minutes. Once you edit, once you trim all the fat, it's 20 minutes, realistically, And then you have to open for like a pro comic, right? Are you able to perform on that level consistently? Not to mention, once you release the special, that's it. It's not like we are musicians and we can just do the same shit for like 20, 30 years. Like you have to, once you release the special, that's it. You cannot use those jokes anymore. But you still have to perform on that level. But you wrote the first special after several years.
Yeah,
so
and you sharpened your sword on that on that
Exactly.
material.
Exactly.
That's going to be a hard thing to deal with.
it
I'm thinking about that when I get to that point, because it's a beautiful process. I don't have a huge quiver. I mean, I'm only new to this, but it's a beautiful process refining jokes, and I'm enjoying doing the repetitiveness of doing the same joke on shows over and over, and just getting better at just delivering that joke. And you start to really then get attached to it. It's like you kind of love it because you know it's a hitter. You know you're going to get a laugh.
Yeah.
And that must be you must almost mourn that, having to let go of a good
yeah,
material.
but you're gonna have to do that because it's kind of like when you have a good joke that you really, really love, but it's just not working, And sometimes people are like, why is this not working? Okay, if that happens, John Rivers called that killing your babies, right? Like sometimes you just have to kill the joke. Sometimes you can just like put it on side, Maybe you need a little bit more of experience, to finish the joke. Maybe you need a certain life experience or a comedy experience in order to finish that joke. Maybe a new element has to happen in your life to, you conclude the story. That's one thing. The second thing, it can be you can try maybe an impression. Maybe you can try include it in the storytelling. You don't get rid of those ideas just yet. Just put them on side because you're gonna be able to use them somehow, somewhere. You know, so it's not like you have to say goodbye to something. It's just like, okay, it's on pause. It's gonna find its place eventually. You know, so I think that's like important detail because we get so attached to these like little bits and pieces. And yeah, sometimes it's fine, milk it, whatever, you know. But a joke never stops being written. How can I say this? You can always add shit to it. It's never done. You know, you can always add new details. You can always try a new delivery, you know, and that's shifted perspective. But also in the process, you kind of have to do a lot of soul searching and figure out who you are, you know, because I think that that's the most difficult part of comedy, finding your voice. Because in the beginning, you have like little idols, right? People that you look up to, right? That maybe you even try to mimic their style. Everybody goes through that. And then you kind of have to do a little soul searching and see, like, okay, what are the things that I really care about that resonate with me? One exercise that is like really simple, it's like see the 5 jokes that are killing it in your set. That's you. That's you. Those jokes are doing well because that's the essence of you. Another thing, it's a good exercise. Ask the loved ones, like in your surround, what are the worst things about you? Let's say you are impatient or you are judgmental or, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, you know. Maybe you have an addictive personality, you know, maybe, you know, you are lazy. Everything that is wrong with you should be utilized. So, for example, if people in my family knows me as being loud and judgmental, the jokes that's going to work the best for me is if I'm being loud and judgmental. You know, so like everything that is not serving you in your private life can serve you on stage.
Wow.
And that can shift your perspective, can give you a lot of confidence because you get lost in all these different styles, right? Like how many times you sat down, you've seen the joke, like, oh, so how should this be delivered? Should I be friendly? Should I be, you know, hostile? Should I be, you know, like flirty? You know, what should be the direction I take? You know, because if you look at any of the comedians, how do you remember them, right? Like Louis C.K. or Bill Burr, like you can pretty much nail their personality like in 2-3 words. That's who they are. You know exactly what you're gonna get.
So, what do you think, other than time and writing and doing those sorts of things? What do you think is another? Do you have any couple other tips for comics to actually help find their voice?
I think that first of all, you have to like enjoy the process. Be prepared that this is gonna be a long process. You know, the saying like comedians don't retire, we die, right? So like, it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, or 40 years old. Like your life can change any second now. So all you can do is just try to become undeniably good. That's my goal always, like building my brand and trying to become undeniably good and see the things that you care about. What are the things that you consume when you are not doing comedy, when you are not in, doing your daily job, when you are not in your relationship? What are the things that you like to consume? Is it cooking? Is it movies, passion for music? Those are all places where you can get the material from, because those are the things that you care when nobody else is watching. So I want to say, take 5 things about you that makes you. Like, for example, for me, it can be Eastern European, big girl, living in New York, whatever, and then I can see, okay, what can I write about my background? What can I write about body image? What can I write about my accent or like some of the opinions that I have? And then start with that. Like don't necessarily focus on what everybody else is doing because your journey is never going to be the same as somebody else's. And also, even if you like a professional comedian and you think like, oh, but my style matches his, he's never going to take you on a road with him because these professional comedians, number one, they have their own friends that they're going to take on the road. So don't kiss ass. They hate that. I've met so many of them. They hate that. And second of all, have a completely different style than them because they don't want their material to compete with yours.
No, yeah.
You will hear that if you watch any podcast or anything, like when they take somebody on the road, somebody who has a completely different style than them.
Because you need the yin and yang.
And they don't want to because like you're gonna open for them, right? So like if you go on a stage and talk about the same experience that I'm gonna have, then people are kind of watching the same show from you and from me, right? Now, there can be, like, maybe you guys are from let's say you want to feature comics from Australia. That's fine, like, that's one thing that you guys have in common. But there are all the other things that, makes you apart. So that's like one thing that I can say is, and also if you can, create something on your own. Produce your own show. Run your own mic. Try to get your hands into any kind of production yourself for two reasons. Number one, you're going to have a better understanding of how this business works. So you're not going to be so sensitive when you don't get booked, when you don't get a certain opportunity, because there's a reason behind it. When I start producing shows, I had some friends being mad at me for not having them on my show. And I'm like, listen, it's not that I don't want to have you. You're just not ready. Like I know you're set. I know you have good jokes. Keep polishing them. Let's revisit this conversation in about 3 months. Because if I have you on the show right now and you're going to essentially open for like a pro comic and you're going to have other features that are like really good comics, there's a chance you're going to be the weakest link. Do you want that? Do you want that to be your experience? No. Okay, then you know what you need to do. And that kind of like pushes people, like, yeah, they're mad for like 5 minutes, right? But then they realize, okay, this makes sense. So they work on it. It gives them a little bit of gas. They put a little bit more work, and then they show up and they kill the show. So that's why I feel like it's kind of like when you are running like your own podcast, right? Like you have to try to do something, right? That's going to help you connect with the community, make you become more confident, right? What is your reason? Why did you start the podcast?
I just love it. I just love it. I know I've never felt more purpose in my life.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what is the goal for the podcast?
To grow this community, to grow myself. It's just, I look at this as like a two-way street.
Exactly.
I want to give someone an opportunity to tell their story, and I'm fulfilling what I want to do because I just love it.
That's it. I feel like whatever you want to create, like new comics, older comics, like create something that's going to produce a value.
Yeah.
And yes, you're going to see people benefit from it. Like sometimes people seem like, oh, you are benefiting. Yes, but there's a shit ton of work behind it.
There is.
There's a shit ton of work. And also, I'm sitting there for like 5-6 hours, or even when I was running shows and editing and doing all that and writing a blog and, connecting people from different places. It's like, that's all work. That's all providing value.
Yeah.
And so people who don't try to do that don't really understand how the whole business works.
But I think that's the way that the human race needs to look at their life. I think everything we do, if you can, has to be a two-way street. You've got to provide a value for something and someone, and not just to extract money out of people.
Yeah.
You have to provide a value and provide a service for people, something that is beneficial for them, but also beneficial for yourself.
Yeah, but like I said, you have to choose something that you're gonna be prepared that it's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah.
So if you already feel like, oh, I don't want to do it, that's fine. Like it's not for everybody, and it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It's just that is not your venue. You know, like you just have to choose a different path. There are a lot of good producers who are maybe not good comics. There are good comedians who are not like good with networking. You know, that's why I'm always saying like there's always a different way. For me personally, the biggest goal is just to become an automatic artist. Automatic artist is somebody you know their work to the point where you're just gonna buy everything that they create, right? Like, you know, if people one day know, oh, that's the girl that was running the mic. Okay, I know she's also a good comic. I want to see her show. Oh, she's also a great writer. I want to read her book. You know, like, oh, you know, she maybe wants to run a podcast. I want to hear what she has to say, what she has to offer, what, you know. That's the automatic artist. If she's in the movies, I want to see that, you know, because every artist is a brand, you know. But in order to really get to that place, you know, Comedians on the Loose has been like my job for the last 10 years, you know, but it's never like an overnight success. It's just like, how do I say it? I've been around, I've just been underground, you know? It's like when people like once see you, right? It's kind of like with Matt Rife, you know, people are like, oh, you know, he just did it overnight. Well, not exactly. No. You know, like he was doing Wild and Out. He was opening for Russell Peters. You know, he's been in the game since he was a teenager.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, you can love him, hate him. Comedy is subjective, but like understand where the person is actually coming from. You know, there's a reason why certain people are making it in the industry. And also, even if they were given like a little opportunity to shine, they still have to sustain it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why I'm never mad at anybody like who gets any kind of success, because even let's say somebody gets jealous of somebody who's like, oh, she's just a pretty girl with a, okay, maybe she got that opportunity to film her special or whatever, you know, but she still has to sustain that. You know, like, yeah, she released it, and now what? She still have to perform on that level. She has to continuously be, right, the center of attention and still sell tickets and still contribute that. So when they saw Matt Rife open, for example, for Dave Chappelle, yeah, because he brought his pool. A lot of these, like, even older comedians, what they do is, especially comedians who are like over 50, let's say, they want to choose somebody who's like really young because they want to have young crowd, young followers coming to the show. So that's the value of somebody like Matt or like a younger comic like that. So there's always purpose, and it's always about like, are you sellable? Are you likable? You know, so it's not just, oh, it's just politics. They don't want me. Like, okay, Brad, like, let's see what you have, you know? And then he has like 5 minutes on drinking and drugs. And what else do I have? Well, you're not prepared. If I just show up today, say like, hey, this is your opportunity. Can you prepare 20 minutes? You're going to do Madison Square Garden. They will shit their pants. Realistic. Let's be objective.
Yeah.
There's no feelings involved. You know, it's just, can you realistically perform on that level? And if you can't, it's okay. You just need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
You know, there are comics who've been in this industry as long as I have been, and they are more successful, and that's fine. You know, like, because I know what my path is, so I'm not competing with anybody. That's why I'm never stressing out. You know, because I'm doing a lot of shadow work. I'm doing a lot of things that I'm posting my clips, I'm trying to produce quality work, you're going to be on somebody's radar when you do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
If people can relate to you, if people can feel you, if they can feel for you, you're likable, you're going to be on somebody's radar. For sure.
Well, I think that is a really good place to end it.
Thank you so much.
It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you as well. This is really fun. I'm really excited to see where you take this podcast.
Thank you. And
it's
I really mean this. You've served the comedy community so greatly. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of it. Yes, appreciate it very much.
Do you want to pitch your socials?
My socials, Comedians on the Loose, COTL Comedy on Insta, or my personal Sonja_Savanovic on Insta and TikTok. Find me there where I rage with people. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we'll see where we take it from there. And yeah, comediansontheloose.com. If you're a new comic and you're looking to learn something about comedy, I don't really share advices. It's more like I'm sharing information, what I know, what I learned. So that's a good, place to start. Check out the blog, leave me a comment, and let's start from there.
Guys, check out her open mic. It is absolute, unique, awesome, weird, crazy, wonderful open
Exactly.
mic. It's on, what is it? It's Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Saturday, yeah.
It is a really, really, really good open mic to flex your muscles and try some stuff and get honest feedback.
Yeah. And make sure that all your jokes come to die. In that place, yeah. Thank you so much, Cameron.
Thanks,
I really
Sonja.
appreciate this.
See you on the next one, guys. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Going After It with Cam Bird. Produced by Cam Bird. Podcast edited by Calpit. Music by Brian Rigby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And if you can, get after it.